Hello. I haven't been posting for a while. I kind of gave up on my channel. Last night, I actually made some videos public that I had hidden for a while because Dustin Daly was talking about Ashton Kutcher. And I still have that video out there about Ashton Kutcher making a statement to Senate that he watched a video of a toddler being horrifically abused. And I still want answers for that. You can go watch that video if you want, but I made it public so that, people could watch it. I'm hoping a bigger YouTuber does a video about it. Anyway, I was kind of done with YouTube. It's been kind of, just ups and downs with YouTube. I just took a break. But seeing as I had just made those videos public and I was kind of already on here anyway, today this came up with TMZ and I just want to react to it as a medical professional. And I will say, medical professionals, we don't always agree with each other or what each other is saying, but a lot of times we keep our opinions out of the public eye because it's really not good for the profession when we're just sitting around criticizing each other. We don't want people to lose faith in the profession. But the clip that I'm about to kind of make some comments on, I have some very serious concerns about it, and I do not have the same credentials as, I don't know what his credentials are. I'm assuming he's a doctor and assuming he's a psychiatrist, but I'm not going to believe that until I look it up for myself. What he said, I disagree with it, and I'm going to say why I disagree with it. And let's just go ahead and play this so I can get into it.
What say you about what we're hearing now about Britney? Does this surprise you?
No, it doesn't surprise me at all because the conservatorship was there for a reason.
Okay, so first of all, with this, they keep saying, so is this surprising you what we're hearing about Britney Spears? What have you been hearing? All I heard is that she's blowing millions of dollars, which is her money to blow through. Now, granted, there are some psychiatric disorders that could be a sign of mania, could be a sign of also attention deficit disorder, impulsivity, like numerous other disorders can kind of like overlap with different ones. So they never specifically say any other symptoms that she's having other than just blowing through the money. Okay, so I just want to start off with that right there. No one said any other symptoms, and I would like to hear it. Maybe I'm wrong. If any of you have any other information or clips about what she's doing other than spending the money, please let me know.
And even though, like you said, it might not have been, with the right person, the actual process needs to be in place because when you have a mental illness to this degree,
Okay, to what degree? He has not assessed her because, well, to the best of my knowledge, he has not assessed her. And I'm saying that because if he had assessed her or been involved with her treatment in any way, shape, or form, he would not be able to be making public statements about her. Also, there are laws against doctors diagnosing people whenever they haven't assessed them. Okay. Psychiatrists are not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to come and speculate on what somebody's mental health disorder might be by just looking at them in videos or things like that. There are very specific standards against that.
You need that kind of structure, supervision, and most importantly, to take your medication. And I think that's probably what's happened here. This is a no medication situation.
What?
Okay, again, he has no room to be able to say that. I mean, there are plenty of people who are on psychiatric medications who still, for whatever reason, they stop responding to their medications and they can still have symptoms. But again, no one's really saying what her symptoms are other than she's spending her own money. She just lost a legal case and now she's spending money, which is a coping mechanism for some people. It's a maladaptive coping mechanism, but it is like a coping mechanism for some people. Like some people may have lost the case and they would have went out drinking. She's going out and perhaps she's spending a lot of money. Again, no one's saying any other symptoms specifically that she's having other than the money.
Why do you say that?
Well, because of the erratic behavior,
What erratic behavior? You can't just say she's having erratic behavior. Give examples. I haven't heard any.
Manicky spending of money, recklessness, destroying.
Recklessness? What recklessness? I need examples. These are just blanket terms they're just throwing out there. And I think it's based off of her behaviors that she's had in the past. Like, what is she doing now that people are saying this other than spending the money?
People around her, no one feels safe around her. No one can control her.
no one feels safe around her and no one can control her. She hasn't felt safe around anyone. They have been all controlling her and trying to control her. So I could see how this woman would have issues with, authoritarian figures, someone who is even trying to step in to help her. Like this poor woman, I think I called her a girl, I'm sorry, but this poor woman, think about the life that she's had. And I don't know that anyone's ever been thinking in her best interests. And now that she's struggling with these interpersonal relationships when she doesn't really have any, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware, like, her family really isn't in the picture. And then I don't know that she has any friends even. Like it's very sad. I don't really know who Britney Spears trusts at this point.
She's out of control on many levels.
Doctor, so what is the answer then? How do you treat a patient that has those sort of issues?
Well,
So this is the other thing too. Okay, as far as psych goes, the major symptoms that you would involuntarily commit someone for are if they're thinking of harming themselves, if they're thinking of harming someone else, or they have an inability to care for themselves. And in those senses, you're mostly talking about like hygiene or cooking for themselves, or maybe it's somebody who's just laying in bed 24/7. But still, even with that, there are very specific laws, there are very specific standards by which you can actually involuntarily commit someone. Okay, and they're very high. Blowing through all your money is not one of them. You can be a heroin addict and go and get high every day, and that does not necessarily mean that you're going to meet the standard for an inability to care for yourself and be able to be involuntarily committed. Okay, there are so many addicts out there who do not meet the criteria for an involuntary commitment. Okay, and you're talking about someone who so far the only example is that she's blowing through millions of dollars. Now that can be devastating, if she is in a manic phase and that's happening, she does deserve help to help preserve her money in her bank account so she can have like a great life. But again, just because she blows through all of her money, she's Britney Spears. That doesn't mean she can't make it back. So
these kinds of situations run into a wall eventually. Either she'll hurt herself, she might hurt someone else.
This is, you don't know that, and it is very possible with certain mental health disorders that it can lead to that, but I think it's very dangerous to just kind of assume because she's spending so much money that this could lead to her hurting herself or someone else. I think that's very extremist, and I don't really appreciate like putting that stigma on people with mental health. You can have issues, and they can even be severe issues, and you never escalate to the point where you're going to hurt yourself or physically hurt somebody else. That is a very high standard that people need to meet in order to be involuntarily committed. And there are some people who are symptomatic their whole life and never meet that criteria.
Or she can be 5150 because she's not being able to take care of herself. And
what is the example that she can't take care of herself? Like, is she not showering? Is she not eating? Is she staying in bed all day? No, she's vacationing and using her millions of dollars to do it. So I'm having a lot of issues with this.
Any of those situations will push her to a place where then medication can be given to her against her will.
You tell me if I'm wrong here.
Still, even as a medical professional, you always try to educate people. You always try to provide therapy and encouragement to try to get people to see their situation, to understand their situation, and to voluntarily take medications. Okay, it is a very serious and extreme step to force medications on somebody. That is a last resort. And thank God there are legal professions to make sure that, it is all carried out properly, that there are not people who are chemically restrained for no reason and against their will. Because that's what that is. It's a chemical restraint. It can be a chemical restraint.
I don't see a world in which a judge would put Britney under another conservatorship because of the public outcry there was in the first case, whether it was misplaced or not. I just don't see that happening.
Well, I understand that. But at the end of the day, hopefully a judge would make the decision in the best interest of that patient. And if that's what she requires, even for a temporary amount of time, that's what she would require.
Okay, it's my understanding that conservatorships, though, aren't usually placed temporarily. Now, this is the thing. I work with poor people, so I've never worked with a conservatorship ever, okay? I'm learning about this with like the rest of you. The people I work are mostly people with schizophrenia or people who have trouble paying their bills for numerous reasons, who are on, commitment statuses and they're staying at a facility. And it is extremely difficult to find people who will pay their bills for them and who will pay them properly and without abusing, their finances. So this whole idea of like a conservatorship, like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen with middle class people or people who have low incomes and things like that. But I've only ever heard of it with rich people, and I'm not. That's maybe I need to do a lot more research about it. I'll eat my words later if I need to, but like literally, I've only ever heard of these conservatorships with rich people who have money. And I understand that you're trying to preserve their money so that they don't spend millions of dollars, but that is not a crime to spend millions of dollars. That is not, you can spend millions of dollars and go broke. That is not a grounds for involuntarily committing someone. Unfortunately, people have the right to destroy their lives all the time. And that is what is so frustrating about mental health, because there are so many people who literally stand by and have to watch their family members or the people that they love make terrible decisions one after another, and they get in these like addictive cycles, or they get in just these behavioral cycles with their disorders, and they literally destroy their own lives with horrible decision making. And there's nothing they can do about it, because it's like, unless they fit that specific criteria of wanting to harm themselves or someone else, or not being able to take care of themselves, you can't involuntarily commit them. And that's where I guess these conservatorships come into play, where they're trying to get the person to not completely destroy their lives. And I get it. I do think in theory it could be a good thing. I also think in theory it could be a very horrible thing, and you could end up taking rights away from a person for the wrong reasons. So it is a very serious thing that you shouldn't be doing just on a whim. It's very serious.
Doctor, is there any argument that could even be made that getting out from under the conservatorship was a horrible thing for Britney Spears, as we sit back and now obviously have watched what's happened?
Absolutely. Hindsight's 2020, but look at it. She slowly is unraveling, and it was in place and she wasn't unraveling. She might not have been happy.
So that's very important though. So, I mean, really, is that our standard? So you can keep someone in a conservatorship, and as long as they're alive and as long as they're sane and healthy by your standards, it doesn't matter if they're happy and have a quality of life by their own standards. Okay, so that's where you get into some very philosophical, ethical arguments, legal arguments, but the whole notion of, well, she's just medicated and she's not having symptoms. You could be medicated and sitting there and drooling all over yourself, not being able to make any decisions. And yeah, maybe you're not symptomatic as far as being manic, but do you have a quality of life? No. Are you happy? No. Is that a solution? There's an argument there. I don't really think anybody who's like sitting there not being able to function and have a happy quality of life, I don't think that should be the standard. Just because somebody's alive, that's no great feat, just keeping someone alive. I believe in having a quality of life and someone being happy. And like I said, you can argue back and forth on that. There's arguments for it, but what he just said, there's things to consider.
But she was stable.
What would you do if you were taking care of Britney Spears? What would be the first thing you'd do today to get her help?
Medication. Put it in her. If she doesn't want to take it, I would inject it in her.
Wow, that's
Do you see Harvey's face right there? And that is the appropriate reaction. Like, what the hell? What the hell is he even basing this off of? Just the fact that she's spending millions of dollars. Yeah, I get it. That's bad. You don't want her to destroy her life. But at the same time, it's her money to spend. Like, maybe she's just seriously like had it, and she's just in one of these phases where she's just like, I'm just going to blow 10 million. Guess what? She has 10 million to blow. That's her business. She could blow 59 million, and it's my understanding she would still have $1 million left. Okay. So it's this perspective here is a little strange, but to make the leap that they haven't said any reasons why she's a danger to herself, a danger to anyone else. They haven't said any other symptoms that she's been having. They said she was reckless, but then they didn't say how she's reckless. They named all these other things and all these behaviors that she's having, but they never named the specific behaviors. The only thing they named was the money. Okay. And And to even make the statement that you would forcibly inject someone with medications when the only real basis is that you've given is that they're spending their money is flat out dangerous. That does not represent that doesn't represent what I work for or what I stand for as a mental health professional. Like I said, I don't have his credentials. And I'm sure he has quite extensive credentials. And honestly, that's why it makes it all the more frightening. It's my understanding he's a very educated person, and he still made this statement. I am not as educated as him, and I would never make this statement just based off of what he said. And I do not want people with mental health issues to think that if you go and you try to seek treatment for symptoms that you're having, that this could happen to you, that you're just going to end up being involuntarily committed or in these conservatorships and that treatment's going to be forced on you. I want you to know there's a very high legal standard for all of these things. And especially in the times post-pandemic, I even have a lot of friends in my personal life who have thought about not wanting to be here anymore. There's a specific type of like not wanting to be here anymore. I hate saying this suicide. Okay. I hate saying these words because of YouTube. Okay. Like, I'm a mental health professional. Like, I am specifically trained not to be vague. But anyway, there are people right now who have these feelings of like apathy, and some of them are afraid it would be mistaken for wanting to end their lives. So there's something called passive suicidal ideation, where people just don't necessarily want to live, but they're not taking these steps to end their life. And there's a big distinction between those. And if you are experiencing that symptom, it is very common. You just want to be very clear with your doctors. Like, I'm having this apathetic feeling. It's a feeling of like, if you were outside walking down the street and a bus were to hit you, you just kind of wouldn't care. You'd be like, okay, it's my time to go. Okay. But you're not walking down the street and you're not throwing yourself in front of a bus to try to end your life. Okay. That's kind of the difference. And a lot of people right now are experiencing the symptom of just having apathy towards life, or having an existential crisis, or having this passive suicidal ideation. And that's okay. That's a completely normal symptom. It's a completely like treatable symptom. You can go and you can get help for that. But there's also other people with different types of mania. Maybe you're spending a lot right now. Maybe you're drinking a lot right now. Maybe you're having a lot of symptoms that you're embarrassed to talk about. Just because you're having these symptoms doesn't mean that you're going to end up in a situation where you could ever be involuntarily committed or placed in a conservatorship. There's very high standards for that. And I don't want people watching this thinking that just because you're blowing through your money, some doctor can come in and just take your rights away. Okay. There's a legal process for that, for all of this. And thank goodness. But, I was quite frankly like shocked by these comments. And I, as a medical professional, I don't want to really come out and ever say anything against another medical professional. This shocked me. And, I would never work with this person. I would never want to be a patient of this person. I've had mental health issues myself. I would never have this person for a doctor. I was trying to make this a brief video, but I can go on, maybe make a longer one to explain a little bit more of that too. He's also been on like Dr. Phil. There's just different things. Like, this statement in particular, like this, I do not feel this is representative of how most people in my field feel. I am quite certain one of the reasons I'm speaking out against this, if I showed this to like my coworkers, I'm quite certain that they would also be like, I can't believe that he said that.
You were quick to answer that. There's no question in your mind.
No, she needs medication. She's out of control.
He doesn't know that. And out of control, like how? He hasn't even assessed her. Like, I literally can't believe that. But my friend has been blowing up my phone. I'm running late now. So I'm going to hurry up and just try to post this so it's out there, and then do a more informative video later. Thanks. Bye.